A billionaire arrived home early, hoping for peace and quiet. But as he stood at his father's door, the billionaire was caught off guard. There, in the dim room, the maid bent down, supporting his frail father who clung to her, both drenched in sweat, shaking as though they could both collapse at any moment. What seemed scandalous at first glance was a raw display of dignity, sacrifice, and loyalty, an untold story no one had anticipated. Before we dive into this, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what time it is. Also, don't forget to strike that like and subscribe button. Let's begin. Take it easy, Mr. Adrian. Just slow down. Elena's voice was steady, though her muscles burned. She positioned herself like a fortress, her black uniform stretched tight as she leaned forward against the bed. Robert Adrian held on to her, his aged body bent forward, his tanned shirt soaked with sweat. His legs, once strong, now trembled like brittle twigs. It had been 10 months since the stroke. 10 months since the man who once ruled boardrooms and construction sites had been confined to that black wheelchair in the corner. 10 months of hope, setbacks, and starting over. Just one more second on your feet, Elena whispered, her cheek brushing the bedspread. You're standing taller than yesterday. Robert let out a weak grunt, his breath shaky. Taller? My knees feel like jelly. I can barely stand, like I'm drunk. Elena's lips pressed tightly together. Then let me be your support. Don't fight me. Just lean into it. His fingers clung to her shoulder, not out of authority, but out of desperate need. I never imagined I'd be like this, Robert muttered, his voice soft and cracked. An old man relying on a girl half my size. Elena dug her heels into the floor, her back screaming with strain from his weight. You're not just an old man, she replied firmly. You're fighting to stand again. That means something. He let out a bitter laugh, the sound breaking. Do you know what it feels like? To go from walking into meetings with the world at your feet to being strapped into that chair just to use the bathroom? Needing someone else to help you stand. Elena's breath hitched as her throat tightened. I know what it's like to lose your dignity, she whispered, her voice steady but raw. Maybe not the same way, but I understand. Robert's eyes locked onto hers, sweat running down his temple. You're young, strong, he said, his voice strained. She nodded, though her arms were shaking with the effort of keeping him upright. Strength doesn't mean invincible. I've carried more than I should have, and maybe that's why I can hold you now. His chest rose and fell heavily, his voice softening. I hate that my son sees me like this. He used to look at me like I was made of iron. Now he looks away, unable to face the truth. Elena blinked quickly, pushing back the tears threatening to spill. Then let me help you stand, when he's not around, so you can remember who you are before he walks through that door. He leaned harder into her, unsteady, his legs shaking like fragile branches. Elena braced herself, her body tight with the effort. Careful, she urged. I've got you, but you need to breathe with me, deep in and out. He tried, but his breath came out ragged, like gravel. If I fall, you won't. She didn't let him finish, her voice firm. Because I won't let go. Robert swallowed, his voice breaking. Why do you care so much, Elena? Her arms trembled, sweat running down her face, but she held him strong. Because no one cared when I needed someone to hold me. And because you deserve more than pity. You deserve someone who believes in you. His lips quivered. His eyes lost focus as he whispered, You sound like my late wife. Elena's heart clenched. She whispered softly, Then maybe she sent me. For a moment, the room was suffocatingly quiet. The only sound was the steady thrum of two hearts, desperately holding each other up. Then, without warning, Robert's knees gave way. His body pitched forward, pulling Elena with him, her feet scrambling for purchase. "Mr. Adrian," she cried out, struggling to hold him steady. Her nails dug into the crisp white bedspread, her back on the verge of snapping under the pressure. "Stay with me. Don't let go." His arm locked around her shoulders, clinging to her with frantic urgency. "Don't drop me, child. Please." "I won't," she gasped, sweat pouring down her face, her body trembling with the weight of him. "I promise." They remained frozen in that desperate hold, his frail body bent over hers, her own form straining like a fragile bridge. His breath was hot and ragged against her neck, his voice barely a whisper, thick with shame. "This isn't how my son should see me." Elena shut her eyes, every muscle screaming in agony. "Then he won't," she murmured, her voice steady despite the ache. "We'll finish this, just you and me." But fate had other plans. The door creaked open. Heavy footsteps echoed across the polished floor. A tall shadow stretched across the bed. "Father?" The voice was deep, controlled, but there was an unmistakable note of alarm. Elena didn't need to look. She could already feel it, the shift in the air. The son, the man in the brown suit. She remained bent forward, Robert still clinging to her, both of them trembling in that impossible embrace. To an outsider, to a son unprepared, it would have looked like something entirely different. Elena's arms trembled again, each muscle in her body crying out as Robert's knees buckled once more. She gripped him tighter, her voice strained as she whispered, "Just a little more, Mr. Adrian. The chair's right here. We can make it." Robert groaned, his voice faint but determined. "Steady me, child. Don't let me fall." Her shoes squeaked on the polished floor as she guided him down, his weight pressing hard against her shoulders. Inch by inch, she lowered him until, finally, he collapsed into the black wheelchair. His chest heaved in short, ragged breaths, sweat dripping down his temple. Elena stumbled back, her body collapsing against the bed frame, gasping for air. Her damp apron clung to her skin, her arms trembling with exhaustion. But she forced herself upright, knowing Marcus Adrian's eyes were on her. He stood in the doorway, his brown suit crisp and his gaze piercing. "What did I just see?" he asked slowly. Elena's throat tightened. She could feel the weight of his judgment, but she knew the truth was far simpler and harder than he could understand. Before she could speak, Robert lifted his head. His voice was firm. "Don't look at her like that, Marcus. She was helping me, helping you." Marcus's eyes narrowed. By putting herself in that position, by taking on a risk she shouldn't even be near? Elena found her voice, steady despite the tremor. There was no one else. The therapist was supposed to come this morning, but the session was canceled again. "Canceled?" Marcus asked, his brow furrowing. "Yes," Elena replied, her voice trembling but unwavering. "The house manager said it was too expensive to keep up twice a week. He told me to follow the printed steps." The therapist left. "I tried, sir. I did exactly what was written. But when Mr. Adrian's leg gave out, I had no choice but to catch him." She pointed to the folded paper on the nightstand, the therapist's instructions, printed in bold black letters. "Transfer protocol. Count to 3. Pivot chair at 45 degrees. Marcus walked over, grabbing it with a clenched jaw. The evidence was clear. Robert placed a trembling hand on Elena's. "She didn't leave me, son. She kept me from falling. Without her, you'd have walked in to find me broken on the floor." Elena blinked away tears, forcing the words out. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because he asked me not to let him give up." Marcus looked at his father, sweating, frail, but still sitting upright, and then at Elena, whose arms shook, her apron wrinkled. every detail showing the weight of her struggle. His voice cracked. I thought something else." Robert's eyes darkened. "Then you thought wrong, and you should be ashamed." The room fell silent. Marcus lowered his head, his polished shoes squeaking as he knelt beside the wheelchair. "Father, Elena, I'm sorry. I misjudged what I saw." Robert shook his head faintly. "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to her. She's the one carrying my weight." Marcus faced Elena, regret in his eyes. "I should have trusted you. My doubts clouded my judgment, but that won't happen again." Elena's voice was calm but firm as she spoke. "All I want is for him to get the care he needs. No one person can replace a therapist. It's too risky for both of us." Marcus's jaw tightened. "The manager who canceled the sessions is done. I'll reinstate them right away, even increase them if necessary. And you," he locked eyes with her, "will never carry this weight alone again." Her lips trembled, relief breaking through the fear. "Thank you, sir." Robert chuckled softly, weak but proud. Seems the boy still knows when to listen. Marcus's gaze softened. "I almost failed both of you today, but I'll make it right." He took the handles of the wheelchair, steady and determined. For the first time in months, Robert let himself relax, his pride intact. Elena stood by, her hand resting gently on Robert's shoulder. She had given everything she had, but her eyes showed she'd do it again in a heartbeat to protect his dignity. And for the first time, Marcus saw it clearly. Not weakness or scandal, but loyalty and sacrifice. When we let suspicion blind us, we risk losing those who care the most. Would you have trusted what you saw or listened to what was truly happening? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories that will touch your heart.